The application process for a degree apprenticeship can seem daunting, especially things like the interview and the group exercise, because they rely so heavily on this social interaction with someone you don't know. In an interview, it could be an hour of an interviewer you don't know asking you completely unexpected questions, or the group exercise where you're put in this group and you all of a sudden have to work together and come up with ideas. If you're an introvert or a sort of shy person, this can seem like quite a daunting thing to have to go through, but it's one of those things that you just have to do if you want to go down the route of a degree apprenticeship. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to break down these different stages: the virtual interview, a phone interview, in-person interview, the assessment centre, so the presentation and group exercise. And I'm going to go through these and I'm basically give you actionable steps on how you can approach these steps and how you can do these stages as an introvert. I'm going to explain why you don't need to be scared of the application process and how you can actually get rid of that anxiety, fear, worry, whatever it is, so that you as an introvert can get success in your interviews and assessment centres. Welcome to the full guide on the application process for introverts. Okay, so I just want to start off by defining what I'm calling an introvert, because I know there's a scientific definition of it. So this video is basically targeted at someone for example, say you're someone who doesn't really like small talk. Well, then a group going to an in-person assessment centre, doing an interview, a group exercise, that might seem a bit daunting to you. This video is targeted to you. Or if you're a bit shy, like with speaking to people you don't know, this is for you. Or you just get a bit of social anxiety or whatever it is, that sort of thing is why I'm talking to you. I don't need someone in the comments saying, well, actually an introvert is specifically someone who's not energized by social situations, and actually you're talking about people who are shy. I'm just putting everything into one category here: introverts, people who are shy, people who don't like social situations, whatever it is. I'm putting it all into this one category to basically explain why you don't need to be scared of this application process, how you can stop being scared or worried about it, and basically the actionable steps you can do in these stages to basically improve your performance and get the degree apprenticeship you want. So that's who this video is for. Okay, so reason number one, you don't need to be scared. So you might be thinking about, oh, I've got this interview to go to, I'm worried about it, I'm scared about it. You don't need to be scared. Okay, so let me explain why. So I'm gonna jump to the driving test, right? And this is relevant, so keep watching, I'll link it back, okay? So in the driving test, it's going to be you in the driver's seat, and then in the passenger seat, you've got the person assessing you who's obviously marking your minor fails, your major fails, whatever it is, making sure that you pass the test. Now, when you book your test, there's something they say which you have to agree to, and that is sometimes, maybe it's 10% of the time, 5% of the time, I don't know what it is, someone else, a third person basically, gets in the back of your car during your test. Okay, it's not a random person, it's a moderator, you could call it. Okay, so sometimes they just randomly decide that a moderator, a third person, is going to get in the back of your car. Okay, and if you don't agree to it, then you can't do the test. Okay, so it's just completely random. You might get a moderator in the back of your car. And now what that moderator is doing is they are not assessing you. When you're going for your driving test, the only person assessing you is the assessor in the passenger seat. Okay, the person in the back seat, they are not assessing you. They're nothing to do with you. This person in the back seat, the moderator, they are assessing the assessor in the passenger seat, okay? So when this moderator gets into the back of your car, they are completely just focused on making sure the assessor is doing the right things. Is the assessor saying the right things? Is the assessor marking you correctly? Is the assessor doing the right processes? All of that. The moderator is completely focused on the assessor. And in this situation, the assessor is under pressure, okay? Because they know that if they mess up, then it's going to get marked down by their moderator, it's going to go to their boss, and they're going to have trouble. So in this sort of situation, it's actually the assessor, because you might be nervous for your driving test, but the assessor is going to be there nervous as well, because they realise they've got to do a good job, because it's like the moderator checking them, and if they don't do a good job, then they get reported to their boss or whatever, right? Let me give you another example. Ofsted at school, right? When Ofsted comes in, complete different atmosphere around school. Like being in lessons, teachers are acting up and everything. Teachers are getting all nervous and everything. Like normally a teacher, you expect them to be confident, just doing what they're doing, telling people off when they're messing around or whatever. But when Ofsted when Ofsted is supervising a lesson, that's when the teacher is a bit nervous, a bit shaky, because they know that they need to perform, otherwise they're going to get marked down on their teaching performance. Okay? This is the exact same with interviews. Okay? The interviewer is going to be nervous. That's something you genuinely, I'm not even exaggerating when I say this, you need to genuinely bear this in mind, okay? For the actual interviewer, an interview is a very like stressful and difficult thing. It's not as simple as just, asking some questions, then getting your answers and be like, yeah, I want him for the job. It's way more structured and more like admin heavy, like there's extra things they have to do. So the way an interview for a degree apprenticeship works these days is they're going to have a script basically of the questions that they're saying. They don't say their own questions, it is a script that they're saying for everyone, because there's so many compared to like a normal role, for like an experienced role, there's one place, so there might be like 8 candidates or something. They can have the same interviewer for every single role. With a degree apprenticeship, because it's like a whole cohort, you could have like 50 new apprentices joining the company, like 50 places. That means they can't have the same person interviewing every single one, obviously. So they're going to have loads and loads of different interviewers interviewing people. So it's got to be a standardized process. And the way they do that is with a script. So every single word that the interviewer basically says with the questions is completely scripted. They have to make sure they follow the scripts. And the way these questions are structured, it's not just a question, it'll be like a sentence. So the question's not going to be like, what do you think about sustainability? It's going to be, at our company, we have a thriving vision to become net zero by 2040 and decrease emissions in every of our actions. With this in mind, what do you think about sustainability? All of these questions are like structured in like a airy-fairy, like paragraphy way with a nice little introduction sentence that they just have to make sure they read every word of and say it like that. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is they have to take notes on everything you say. So say the question is, the full question would be, our company is committed to collaboration and unity. Therefore, can you tell me a time when you've worked as a team? So they'll say that scripted question. As you're saying that, they have to write notes on everything you say. It's not just like they listen to it and they're like, oh yeah, that's decent. They have to write down everything you say, because again, once all the different interviewers come together for a meeting, they're gonna have to compare answers. So you can be like, when I asked this one about a team, he said he was in a football team, that's decent. This one said he was the captain of a football team. Like they can do comparisons and stuff, who has the better scenario. So they have to write down everything you're saying. And the third thing is they have to input all of these into a matrix. So it's not just necessarily this answer was 1 out of 10, this answer was 3 out of 10, this answer was 8 out of 10. It's like a matrix where they have all sorts of different categories for each question and different factors they have to take into account. So maybe for a question, instead of just doing one rating, like a single out of 10 rating, they probably have like 5 different out of 10 ratings. Like they have a confidence rating, like they have an actual answer rating, they have a structure rating, whatever it is. They have a whole matrix that they have to fill in for the whole thing, for each question. So they have those 3 things to think about. Scripted question, they have to get word for word correct so that it's standardized. They have to take notes and they have to fill in this detailed matrix about your answer. So they are stressed, okay? They do not like interviews, okay? Because they have to go through all that admin, do those 3 things. They are stressed, they are worried about it, okay? So you don't need to be, okay? That's my point here. Just like the driving assessor was probably more stressed than you are if they have a moderator in the car, or the teacher's like more stressed than you are when they have an Ofsted inspector like sitting in the back of the classroom, the interviewer is going to be more stressed than you are because they have all this stuff to do, whereas you can just sit there and just talk, okay? So that's the first thing I just want to say to you basically, is that you don't need to be scared, because chances are they're more scared than you. I had one assessment centre where the guy came to like the group of us and he like introduced the company, said how this day's going to run. He was all fine, seemed pretty normal. I get into the actual interview, he was so nervous. He was like shaking, stuttering his words, and because I'd heard him earlier and he was completely fine, I knew like it was nerves. Like he was nervous with all the questions he was asking. Before he was like absolutely fine his speech, making eye contact, everything. In this interview he was like struggling to make eye contact. He was like he was stuttering his words and like shaking his hand. His hand was shaking with his pen in it and everything. So in that interview I was just absolutely calm, because once you realise and get it into your mind and know that they're more scared than you are, you're like, what's there to be scared of? So that's the first thing there. You don't need to be scared of anything because they're more scared than you. Like, they're the scared ones. You're the ones who are like comforting them or whatever by basically like being there. Now, the second thing is something called the spotlight effect. Now, I touched upon these in 2 videos I filmed previously about how to improve your confidence and public speaking skills. So if you're interested in hearing about this in more detail, if that's something you're interested in, being able to become more confident in your social skills and your communication skills, then check out those videos. But I'm just going to briefly go through it now. It's the spotlight effect. So this is another reason, okay, why people might be scared of talking in public in general, right? And it's to do with the spotlight effect. It's to do with making mistakes. And I think it's sort of, it's like, I think it's got like a cultural cause. Like there's a reason behind it. And I think that's because of school. So think about a group exercise. Okay, so I'm going to get onto the group exercise later and the tips you can use in it. But if you think of a group exercise you had to do in school, maybe you're in a lesson and like you had to get into groups of 5 and do a project. Let's be honest, if you're in that group and like you came up with an idea, you said it, you're going to get slated. Someone in that group is just going to say that's a really bad idea, right? It's school, it's ruthless. You know what I mean? You come in with a new haircut, like you come in with a haircut like this and you're getting absolutely slated by everyone for a whole week until someone else comes in with a new haircut. Like, it doesn't even have to be a bad. If you have a good haircut, it's going to get slated anyway, right? You know how school is, okay? So I think that's a lot of where this like social anxiety sort of shyness comes from, is just, it's from school. Like that's the cultural cause of it, because everyone just got slated at school for everything, okay? And it brings about something called the spotlight effect, which you think everyone notices and cares about your mistakes, because in school obviously everyone was thinking about your mistakes. Like say you're in a group exercise and you give an idea that's not very good, you're going to get absolutely slated for it, okay? If you're doing a presentation, you stumble a word, people are going to start laughing and then they're going to be talking about a break or whatever, right? First of all, this doesn't happen in the workplace, right? That's the first thing to think about. This isn't school anymore, so you don't have to worry about like stumbling a word. There's not going to be like your mate in year 11 who starts laughing at you. No, it's the workplace. Same with the group exercise. Whereas a group exercise at school, if you like put your hand up and said a bad idea, everyone will start laughing. Group exercise during an assessment centre and application process, everyone's going to be completely respectful of your thing. Like, so that's something that completely like took me off guard when I did the group exercise. It was that everyone was so like respectful and dignified. Like you get so much respect just saying like an idea in the group exercise. Everyone's like, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a real idea. Let's do that. Compared to if you said that at school, someone would be like, are you dumb? Do you know what I mean? It's so respectful. So if like you're scared of it because you're scared like it might be a bit hostile, everyone is really friendly, right? It's the workplace. With a lot of these assessment centres, they have like an ice-breaking session at the start. So they'll do a session where they like introduce everyone and like ask you, like ice-breaking sessions where they say give one fact about yourself. In my opinion, that's more scary than the actual interview. Like where they just say, give me one fact, and then they pick you as the first one to say, okay, that bit's scary, I'll give you that, okay? But in general, they're just having these ice-breaking sessions. There's one of the assessment centres I did, literally, you basically have to go into a breakout room for an interview and then come back to the lobby, then go for your case study back to the lobby, presentation lobby, group exercise lobby, yeah? And every time I go back to the lobby, it's the same guy and he's asking like, oh, is that all right? Are you fine? Are you okay? And he was like, they are trained, they know this is early careers, right? They know most people have never probably done anything like this. They always ask at the start, has anyone done an assessment centre before, as like some small talk? And it's always like, no one has done one before. Most people won't have done interviews, like maybe you've done one for a part-time job, but most people won't have done interviews. They know you're going to be scared. They're trained for it. They know people might be worried, a bit anxious about it. So don't worry about it at all. That's absolutely fine. It's the workplace. It's not going to be like school where everyone starts like bullying you and like mocking you if you make a mistake. Everyone's completely respectful, okay? So if that was like the constraint, that was what was worrying you about the interview or group exercise, maybe you didn't think of it consciously, but somewhere in your unconscious, you're like still like reeling from like how school used to be like or is like, then don't worry about that. That's not an issue because everyone is so respectful. And now going back to this spotlight effect, it's about people noticing and caring about your mistakes, and it just links into what I just said. So if you make a mistake in an interview, like you might think, okay, this might be a thing, you might be a bit scared about people, the interviewer, asking you like unprepared questions that you'd never thought of. Even if you say something like, oh, I can't think of an answer right now, don't even worry about it. They really don't care. Like in terms of your actual interview performance, it's not going to decrease you that much. Like you can still get the job saying that. Like I've said that and still got that job, right? And it's not like school where the interview's like mocking you like in the head. They're thinking, oh, that guy's an idiot. Well, no, they just don't care. Completely respectful. They don't care about your mistakes, any of that. They're just happy. Okay, so that's why you don't need to be scared. Okay, because first of all, they're terrified, they're stressed, they're anxious, they're worried. Okay, so you don't need to be. They're like taking their portion of stress and your portion of stress. They've got it all. So just don't even worry about yourself. And second of all, it's not school. No one's going to mock you if you make mistakes. The spotlight effect, definitely watch those 2 videos if you're interested, but no one really cares about your mistakes. It doesn't really matter. So there's nothing to be worried about. Say you mess up in the social situation, whatever it is, like you mess up in the interview, there's nothing to worry about. So that's that first section about why you don't need to be scared. I just want you to like understand that, okay, you're an introvert, you're a bit shy, but there's nothing to be scared of. Like, they're not going to hurt you or anything. They're just it's actually quite refreshing, like how respectful everyone is, like including the other applicants, including like the HR people, the actual people interviewing. Like, everyone is so respectful and nice. It's really refreshing. So you might actually find, even if you feel a bit nervous and a bit shy now, you'll just be there and you'll just see how nice everyone is, and you'll be like, you know what, this is fine. Okay, so that's that first section for you. So hopefully that's like made you a bit less stressed, a bit less anxious, a bit less worried. But I just want to add a bit on about, like, if you're still a bit stressed, scared, anxious about it or whatever, I would just say practice is a big thing. The more practice you get, it's going to become easier and easier. So the first portion of this video, I've explained why you don't need to be scared. Maybe that's like relieved you a bit. Maybe like you're a bit like calmer, a bit happy now, but maybe it's not all the way. And I'm not going to be able to get you all the way just by like doing a video. Like, you're going to have to go out and practice. So the first one you do, you're going to probably be nervous, right? But then once you do more and more, again, as I say, you're going to realize how friendly it is, how fine it is. You don't have to worry about the social interaction. You don't have to worry about the interview. Group exercise is fine. Like, if you have an in-person one, like going in and talking to the receptionist or whatever, it's really not a problem. Like, you're going to probably end up being an extrovert, right? If you end up doing like 6 assessment centers, you're probably going to end up being extroverted or whatever, like not scared of social situations, absolutely fine with talking to people, whatever it is. Okay, so just do loads of practice. Like, the first time I ever had to like call like a business, so I wanted a job, like a part-time job at this restaurant, and they said call this number. I was absolutely terrified. I just like spent days not calling this number because I was so scared. When I came to call, I was like shaking with my hand on the phone. It went to voicemail, and I was like, thank God I don't have to talk to anyone, because I don't want to do that. But then I remembered it goes to voicemail, so I have to say something, and then that's when like I tried to say a voicemail. I was like, hi, my name's Owen. I saw that do you know what I mean? That's why I was like, that was an absolute shocker from me. And I was actually so nervous that I forgot to leave my number so they could call me back. And to be honest, I never got a call back from them because they didn't have my number. And I thought that I was just like, the voicemail was so bad, like I'd sounded so stuttery and so nervous that they just didn't even want to call me back. But I worked out like a year later that it was actually because I hadn't I hadn't left my number, so they couldn't call me back. But then you fast forward a couple of years, and then all of a sudden I'm happy like doing interviews, calling, like in my job right now I have to just like call random people and people I've never spoken to before and talk to them, like making small talk with random people. I've like done speeches to like over 300 people. Do you know what I mean? So lots of practice is basically going to get you all the way up to where you're going to get to a point where you're not nervous, basically. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the actionable steps for each of these stages. So I'm going to go through the virtual interviews, the phone interviews, an in-person interview, and then other parts of the assessment centre like the group exercise. And just to start all of this off, here's the first thing to do. Actually, this is an actionable step for whenever you get nervous, to be honest. And this can be before... This can be directly before your interview, during your interview, whatever it is. And it's as simple as this: breathe through your nose. Notice I'm not saying anything crazy here. Like, people normally say, take a deep breath, like, for like stress. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying doing a deep breath. I'm not going to go into the science of it, but a deep breath actually isn't good for you. Okay, if you don't believe me, just skip to the next section where I'm going to go into like the actual like proper bits. But this is just like a pre-thing. Breathe through your nose, and just, it doesn't have to be anything deep, just light breaths through your nose, and that's just going to unlock, it's just going to unlock your body. It's going to unlock your brain, because breathing through your nose, it produces nitric oxide, which widens your blood vessels, and it means more blood goes to your brain, and it like lowers your heart rate, so you're more it just don't breathe through your mouth. Breathing through your mouth is only used, like if we talk about like caveman, like evolution, that sort of thing, breathing through your mouth is only for like life or death adrenaline situations. Like, say you're hunting a boar as like a hunter caveman, and you have to do a final sprint to capture it, then you probably start breathing through your mouth to get a bit more air and a bit more oxygen. And then and like you'd get adrenaline going from that and all of that sort of stuff. Or maybe like you're getting like chased by a bear or something, then you get like mouth breathing to get away. Mouth breathing isn't something you should be doing all the time, because it's to do with fight or flight, it's to do with stress and all that. If you're breathing through your mouth, you're not helping yourself. So just always breathing through your nose. That's what you want to be doing, always breathing through your nose. And especially in situations like this, like high pressure situations, like you might be worried about your interview, so beforehand, just a couple of slow nose breaths to relax, and during it, you're going to do well, okay? So that was just a pre-step. Just first of all, just settle the nerves, get that nasal breathing going, whether that's for your virtual interview, whether that's for your in-person assessment centre, whatever it may be, nasal breathing is the key. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to cover is virtual interviews and phone interviews, and how you can deal with those if you're an introvert. So the first thing I want to say is phone interviews these days aren't that common. So I'm sure they still do them. There'll be companies that do phone interviews, however, they are not too common. So what's the reason behind these phone interviews, first of all? So obviously in the past, before the days of technology, for a job, it would all be in person. You'd have to go in for a job and do that. However, then obviously it's limited by time. You have to make sure these people can get in, travel, to pay expense or whatever. You can only have a certain number of people coming in. You can only have a certain number of slots. It's more time consuming, expensive. However, if you can have a phone interview as virtual, it can just be a 15-minute conversation. You can book more people in. People don't have to travel. You can get more people through to the stage. It means you can get better candidates. So it's basically a better investment for businesses to be doing virtual and phone interviews, because it means more, they can interview more people, a wider base of people, which means they're going to end up with a better employee, which is good for them. So they'd start doing phone interviews, they could get more people, and that's what they did a couple of years ago. But since COVID, like in the past couple of years really, it's now the virtual interview, which is basically taking over the phone interview. And by virtual interview, I mean like it's a program, it's a whole new thing where a bit of text displays on the screen, it says a question, and then you just record your webcam and you speak at it, and it records that, and then it saves that file, MP4 or whatever, and then like 2 weeks later, someone from HR is going to watch it, right? That's what I mean, but I'm not talking about like a virtual interview on Teams or Zoom or whatever. I class that as an interview, but I'm calling this a virtual interview because it's a completely different format. It's going to give you a question, give you like a minute to prepare, and then the webcam will just start recording, and you have to speak into that until it stops recording, and then you go on to the next question. It displays the text, and then you speak into the webcam. So this is what a virtual interview is, and it's what they do nowadays, because it's better than a phone interview, you can imagine, because a phone interview does not have visual. Okay, and visual is a massive thing. There's that statistic that, I don't know, 80% of stuff is conveyed through body language or whatever. I don't believe it's that big or whatever. But body language is important in seeing your confidence, that sort of thing. So video interview is basically just a better version of a phone interview. It gets the benefits of being virtual, but it also gets the benefits of being able to see you, okay? So just bear that in mind. A phone interview might not be too common these days, although I'm sure companies do it. Virtual interview is normally the way to go. And with a virtual interview, okay, if you're a bit worried about that, like as a shy person or an introvert, you have to understand, virtual interview, there's no one there, okay? There's literally no one there. You're speaking at a screen, at text. You're literally speaking at text on a screen. That's all it. So if you're a bit shy, you're introverted, you don't have to worry about the virtual interview stage. Literally imagine you're like talking to yourself, like you're giving the answer to yourself. Like they ask a question and you're just speaking it. You're like in a room on your own, just giving yourself the answer. Like imagine you're filming a YouTube video, because that's all it is. It's actually your webcam is there. There's no one else in the room. There's no one else watching you. There's no one on the other side of a Teams link. It's literally an empty screen apart from a text and like a timer ticking down. Just imagine you're filming a YouTube video. I think that's the best mindset and the best actionable step you can do once you're in that virtual interview, is just imagine you're in a YouTube video, just look at that webcam and speak. There's no one there. You don't have to worry about anything. You're just completely on your own just doing that. Okay, so that's the mindset to go into the virtual interview with. Is you are completely you're filming a YouTube video, okay? That's what it is. Virtual interview is just a YouTube recording session. Now the phone interview, it is going to be a real person, okay? There is going to be someone talking, okay? However, you have the benefit of this phone interview, if obviously you're a bit shy or introverted, you have the benefit of there's no camera, okay? So that can be a big thing that you can worry about, is like, where do I place my hands? Or like, how do I sit? Or like, where do I move my, like eye contact. People find eye contact hard. Phone interview, you just forget all of that. Forget all of that. You don't have to do, all you have to do is be on the phone and just answer the questions that get asked to you. And then that's it. right? It's literally as simple as that. You don't have to worry about like what you're wearing or what you put in the background or what where you put your hands or how you do eye contact or any of that. It's literally like listening to someone on the phone. Like you can't even see them, right? That's the thing. The best mindset, if I'm being honest, is just imagine they're not a real person, right? Like they are literally, the person on the other end of the phone is not even a real person. It's like an AI chatbot. You're literally talking to ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT is literally doing like a text to speech into the phone. You say the question, you say your answer, sorry, and then it's like doing voice to text, and then it's doing some algorithm and coming up with some ChatGPT stuff, and then it's giving you the next question, right? Literally, don't even think about, when you're doing a phone interview, imagine you know when you call, like these days, you call like a bank or whatever it is, HMRC, and they have like an automated thing, which is like, if you're interested in this, press 3. If you're interested in this, press 4. If you're interested in this, press 5. That is literally what you're talking to. You're talking to some automated AI chatbot who's reading questions that have literally been coded in C# into its programming, okay? So that's the mindset for you. If you're introverted, you're a bit scared of talking to a real person, they're not a real person. Phone interviews that are literally done with AI. So next I'm going to move to an interview, so a proper interview where you can see the person who's asking you questions, but like a online real interview, okay? So something on Teams or Zoom. So it's virtual and online in the sense that you're not there, but it is a real interview in the sense that it's not just text on a screen like a virtual interview is, but it's actual people on Teams with their cameras on, right, looking at you, okay? So that's what I'm going to go into next. For this one as well, you can literally imagine you're not even talking to them, because this is the huge benefit of all this virtual stuff, is you don't even have to be in the same room as them. When you're on an in-person assessment centre, that's completely different. That's way more challenging, and I'm going to go through tips on how to tackle that if you're introverted and shy in a second. But first of all, if it's that online Teams interview, again, you can sort of just imagine they're not real, because you don't even have to look at the screen. Like, I would recommend, if you're like getting a bit anxious about speaking to these people, don't even look at the screen. Forget they're there. Literally look at the web. Like, you should be looking at the webcam anyway. By the way, when you're doing these virtual interviews and whatever it is online, you need to be looking at the webcam. Don't look at yourself, like looking at yourself in the screen, because you can see here I'm slightly looking below the camera lens and it looks a bit jarring. Whereas when you're looking at the camera lens, that looks really good and it's just more engaging for the person. But when you're in this interview, just look at the webcam. Don't even look at the interviewers who are down below. Just imagine it again, they're like AI. They're like video generated AI. I'm pretty sure they can do that now, like deep fake or something. Imagine these people are deep fake. That's all they are, okay? So that's my tip there if you're introverted again. Just imagine they're not real. Like, the more you think about, oh, these people are real, they're like judging me. First of all, go back to what I said at the start with the spotlight effect. Like, everyone's really kind, then don't worry about your mistakes, don't worry about it. They're really scared, to be honest. Think about that, and then also just think about the fact that you're never going to see these people ever, okay? They don't know who you are, you don't know who they are. They're going to forget about you after this interview. They're not going to keep worrying about your mistakes. They just don't know who you are. It doesn't matter. They're not even real. Just keep looking at the camera, okay? So that's my strategy for online interviews, basically, if you're introverted. The strategy is to just keep looking at the webcam, and again, just imagine they're not real. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to an in-person interview, because this is where it can get like challenging. Like, if you can just imagine like having to turn up to an interview, you have to like, so I've been to a couple, trying to get into the office building is a challenge, because you have to go to the first reception, then they give you a pass to get through the first turnstiles, send you up a lift, and you end up on this floor with like 10 doors around you. You don't know which door's which. You end up like going through your doors and like bumping into people, and then realize, okay, this is the wrong door. And then eventually you find reception, and then you tell reception, I'm here for an assessment center interview, whatever it is, and then they'll send you to the right place. So like, it can be a bit of a daunting prospect, finding your way into the building, then doing that. You have to like sit down in the lobby making like small talk with everyone, or like it can just be an awkward silence. One of the assessment centers I did, I just walked in and everyone was just sitting there in silence on sofas. Like, everyone was like 2 meters apart, no one was making eye contact or everything. So you can just imagine that could be a bit daunting, and if that sounds a bit daunting for you, then I'm just going to help you with this. And it's similar to the thing that I said at the start, where like where the interviewers are all scared. It's the same as this. When you're sitting in that lobby with the other people, because you can actually see them now, the other applicants, they are just as scared as you are. Like, they're all sitting there like, oh, do you know what I mean? They're all exactly the same. Don't worry about that. So just don't worry about any of that first bit, because everyone's in the same boat. Like if you're worried about finding the right place, or like being awkward or whatever, just don't worry about everyone's like that. So that bit's fine. Now let's just get to the interview, okay? And the number one thing in the interview you need to display is confidence. So I'm guessing if you've watched this far into the video and you're watching this video about introverts, then you're probably not too confident about this speaking stuff. So fake it till you make it, basically. That is the whole part of this interview thing. When you're online, you don't have to. It's not too bad, to be honest. The virtual interview and the online Teams interview, you can sort of just pretend they're not real. They're just AI. You know what? Don't worry about it. Let's just get rid of social anxiety that way. When you're in person, you can't really do that. You can't just sitting across from them and just being like, you're not real. You have to actually, you have to have better strategy than that. So the strategy here is just fake confidence, okay, until you make it, okay? So I want you to walk in, yeah, and they are more scared than you, okay? You need to bear that in mind. You need to walk in, and when you sit down, you need to make sure your body is aligned towards them, okay? Because imagine the message this gives off, right? If you're giving someone an interview, so imagine you're the interviewer, and I'm like answering your questions like this, right? Imagine I just filmed my videos like this, so I was just sort of filming my videos like this, just like doing occasional eye contact and sort of like fidgeting around like this. And that's the most important thing. If you can do body language and confidence, okay? So when you sit down, your body needs to be faced at them. Maybe there's two, so make it face at both. Make it open body language. You don't want to be all crossed up like this, like legs crossed, any of that. Like you want to be sitting like nice and tall, nice and wide, facing them, open body language, because that just shows confidence. And I'm going to be honest, they're not going to employ someone who just shows this lack of confidence, because I'm sorry, doing this does not work in a workplace, right? Because in a workplace, you have to speak to people you don't know, you have to have meetings with people you don't know, you have to like present things, everything you have to do is like, if you're not a confident person who's confident in social situations and communication skills, they're not going to employ you. I'd say it's the most important thing is being able to communicate properly and have good confidence and all that. So get that body language, sit tall, sit wide, open body language towards the interviewer. And the next thing is eye contact. So people can struggle with eye contact. They struggle with maintaining eye contact right now, okay? So I'm just going to tell you right now, you don't struggle with maintaining eye contact, okay? Like you don't. I'm going to prove this to you, okay? So I want you to look at me right now, okay? So if you're watching this on a computer and you're on another tab, come back to this tab quickly, just for a minute or so. Or if you're not looking at your phone, just look down at your phone right now, okay? And I want you to just look at me, just look in my eyes, okay? Like this might be a bit weird, just don't even worry about it. Just not staring or anything. Like I'm not saying keep your eyes up. I'm just saying just look at my eyes. Blink. I'm blinking. Do you know what I mean? Just look in my eyes and let's see how long we can do this. Right? Right? You still looking? Make sure you're still looking in my eyes right now. Just keep the eye contact as I'm talking right now. Just keep looking in my eyes. Okay? Yeah, right, just a bit more, but literally 10 seconds more, you have to look in my eyes, and then you can look away, because it's probably getting weird now. If you're still looking in my eyes, it's probably weird, but just keep looking in my eyes, right? 5 seconds. Boom, okay? Don't tell me you can't hold eye contact. You just held eye contact with me for like over 30 seconds, okay? Eye contact, you don't need to deep it, okay? Even if you find eye contact uncomfortable or whatever, just look at them in the eyes. Right? All you have to do is literally, like the amount of eye contact I'd be giving interviews, it could probably be too much. I don't know. But I'm going to have to say, I'd say you're better off doing so much eye contact you risk being over eye contacting them than like going on the safe side and like not eye contacting them, because that's just weird, right? So you basically just want to be looking in their eyes the whole time, and like while you're answering, if there's two of them, like switch between each of the two, but make sure you switching between their eyes. You don't want to be like looking off to the side or into the middle distance. You want to be just looking in their eyes. And if you've ever looked in like someone's eyes for a long time, you can like start like phasing out or something. I can't really explain it, but if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. But you can start like phasing out, and like you feel like you get like third person or something. Maybe it's just me and I need to see a doctor, but you just have to battle through that and just keep looking at them in the eyes, okay? So we've got a nice, open, confident body language. Like I look like smiling, eye contact, like you look like someone who they want employed, they want to be in the workplace, they want to be around, compared to someone who's like this. No one wants you. They don't want you at the company if you're like that. I'm just gonna be brutally honest with you. Okay, so that's all we have to do really. Let's just fake it. Let's just have our good body language. Let's have our eye contact. Let's have our smiling. Let's think about the fact that they're scared, and we're just. It's like you're like more. You're in like more of a position of power. Like not literally, in the sense that you're here and you can just not worry about anything. You're just here for the interview and whatever. They've got their real job. If they mess up this interview, then there's going to be their boss saying, why did you mess up the matrix and note taking? You messed up. Why haven't you done it? We now can't do it. Do you know what I mean? They're nervous. They're scared. They're stressed, trying to make sure they like perform the interview correctly, make sure they do the exact right wording and write everything down. Whereas you're just here, just looking in their eyes with your nice body language, with your smile. Just happy to be here, happy for the opportunity, right? Okay, so that is basically the way you present yourself in an interview, is with that sort of body language. And once again, just going with the mindset that they're scared, and second of all, with the mindset they're like, they don't know you, you're never going to see them again. So if you do badly, don't worry about it. Just, do you know what I mean? And hopefully that should relieve a bit of stress, being able to just like go in it with sort of no stakes. Like don't worry about making mistakes. You can just go in it completely just stress free. Just get the good body language, and you'll end up finding when you have good body language, you feel more confident. Like because when you're just like this, you're not gonna naturally feel confident. Whereas when you just come in with the confident body language, like you do some like shape with your hands, start like putting your hands like that or something. Yeah, the amount of confidence that there's just gonna be built inside of you from nowhere. Like it's literally fake it until you make it, and you're gonna make it doing like this. So that's my tip for you, and I hope that helps you with the interview if you like with body language sort of thing. Because that's basically the main way it's gonna help you in that interview is with body language. So now moving on to the other parts of the assessment centre. So I'm gonna first of all deal with the presentation and case study. And the thing with the presentation and case study is, first of all, again, if you're online doing this on Teams. This is so easy, right? You're not even again, you're filming a YouTube video, right? You are literally filming a YouTube video. You've done your presentation, you are literally like filming that YouTube video for your YouTube channel, right? Because you're going to be sharing your screen on a PowerPoint. You're not even going to be able to see the person who's like listening to your presentation, who's assessing you on it. All you're going to see is your presentation on the slides. You'll have a few notes maybe to refer to, and you're just looking at the webcam. Yeah, so presentation. Again, there's no one there. You're literally filming a YouTube video. Don't worry about the social interaction. Same with the case study when you're doing this online. You're literally just looking at the camera, explaining the notes that you've gone through on this case study. You're not even talking to anyone. And then like the question can be asked, what about the questions? Because at the end of a presentation on case studies, they're going to give you some they're going to give you Q&A basically. You'll see that in the description of what it is. So please prepare a 10-minute presentation and then be ready for questions from the assessor. Okay, so here's a bit of like secret insider information that you don't know. These questions are trash. Okay, I don't know who comes up with these questions. I don't know who actually thought this was a good idea. Like no one's actually thought this through. The questions are complete rubbish. Okay, because they're going to give you a presentation or a case study, and they're going to list these criteria. Like we want you to talk about this. We want you to talk about this. We want you to talk about this. The questions they ask, again, they're scripted questions because everything has to be standard. Like I mentioned earlier, the questions are just the exact questions from the presentation brief. That doesn't even make sense, right? So, say your presentation is on do research on the company, include our sustainability goals, our products, and how we are becoming digital. So you're going to give you a presentation on those three things, right? And then you're going to get to the Q&A and they're going to ask, so how is our company becoming sustainable? And you're just like, what? I've just spent 5 minutes talking about that, right? You're not going to say that, but in your mind, you're like, what? Then the second question they're going to ask is, so what are our products and services? And you're like, again, I've just spent 5 minutes talking about this. Were you even listening? The third one's going to be like, what is our digital strategy? And you're like, are we in the same interview right now? Okay? That's genuinely how I felt in every single one of my like presentation, case study, assessment center things, because they just ask you the questions that they wanted you to ask, okay? So how is this relevant to this introverts thing? Because it basically means, one big worry is that you're going to get asked questions you don't know, like questions that you've never heard of, you have to think on the spot. You're going to do a presentation, they're going to ask you a random question, you're not going to know what to say, right? they're going to ask you a question that you already know what the answer is. You've already said it. So literally when they ask this question, you basically just summarize what you've said. Like you just repeat what you've said and summarize it into a 1-minute answer. That's all you do. And the trick here is basically cover everything in the presentation case study brief. Okay, just cover it, and there's no new. There's no new like answers you have to come up with. Say you only cover half of it. When they ask you about the other half, you're gonna have to come up with that on the spot, and that's where you can get all nervous trying to think about what do I suddenly say. But if you've covered everything already, they're asking no new questions to you. So you don't have to worry about anything at all. And it's like at the end of it, they might ask you some extra questions, but those aren't assessed. It's like on my presentations, they'd ask like the standard questions, right? And I just repeat what I've already said, it's not a problem. And then they'd be like, oh, this is actually quite interesting. So do you know, but that's them out their genuine interest, because these people who are interviewing, they're like professionals in the workplace. They're like interested in whatever the topic is. Then they're just gonna ask you questions. So on that part of it, it's not even assessed. So basically, presentation and case study, do not worry about them asking you questions, because they're not asking you any questions. They're just asking you to repeat what they've said. Okay, so just do everything mentioned in the brief. Just go through absolutely everything that is there, and you'll be absolutely fine on that. Now, the final thing to go through is the group exercise, because this probably can be maybe the most daunting thing for someone who's introvert, shy, doesn't like social interactions, because you're basically getting thrown into a group of 4, 5, or 6. Like I've had one in pairs. Like if you don't like I don't know, talking to people, then when you get, you know when you get put in a breakout room and they do it in twos and you're with one other person, you're like, oh mate, you know, it can happen. So this is one of the daunting stages. But with these application processes, as I said earlier, first of all, the people interviewing are really nice, but the people who are in your group exercise are going to be extremely respectful. I mean, that's obvious. I shouldn't even really be having to say this, because they're going to the job. So if they start being horrible to you, disrespectful, they're not going to get the job, right? So obviously, I don't even have to say it, like this is obvious, they're going to be respectful, really nice towards you, really dignified and that sort of thing, diplomatic towards you. So you don't have to worry about it. Like genuinely, it is a relieving, like it's a refreshing experience to go into a group exercise. Like genuinely, I would recommend. You go into this group exercise and you have to like solve a problem or come up with a solution as a group or whatever it is, present an idea as a group. If you say an idea, 5 people are going to instantly respond saying, that's a great idea, that's a brilliant idea. It's like an ego boosting, like mood boosting, like just makes you like happy and feel valued in general. Because everyone is like trying to look good to the interviewers, everyone's just so nice to you. So you don't have to worry about it. Even if you do get put in a breakout room of 2 and you're working with one other person, you don't have to worry about them like being horrible or thinking you're whatever, yeah, because they're just on your side. Everyone is on your side. Everyone is so nice. If you come up with an idea, everyone's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Even if it's not a good idea, like I've been in assessment centres and some people have said some like shocking ideas. I'm like, where have you even come up? That's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. But because everyone's got to like put on a diplomatic tone or whatever for the interviewers, for the people assessing them, and then everyone's really nice about it. So I remember this one guy who just came up with an idea and it wasn't a good idea. So I was just like, oh, that's a decent idea. Thanks for coming up with that. But I just thought maybe if we approach from this angle, it would be slightly better. How about we go around the group and see which one we want to go with, and then we'll go with that one and it'll help us achieve our mission. Like you can see, that's what people say. That's what I say when I hear like in a group exercise something that I don't think is a good idea. I'll just say something nice like that, which basically says like, thanks for your idea. Like that's a good idea. I just think this one is slightly better. Everyone's so nice about it, okay? So if you're an introvert, you're shy, you don't like talking to people, to be honest, I'd look forward to the group exercise, because it's gonna like make you an extrovert. Like I think I said it earlier in the video, like the application process, everyone is so nice and kind, it's gonna make you like talking to people. Like I loved the group exercises. They were so much fun because you feel so valued from them, because you say an idea, like a normal idea, like an idea that's not too groundbreaking. You say like one thing, like I think we should do this, and then all of a sudden there's like a chorus of like, oh yeah, that's a really good idea, that's a brilliant idea. It's genuinely like an ego boosting, like would recommend activity. Like even if you're not going to apply to apprenticeship, if you go to university, I would just say apply for an apprenticeship just so you can get the group exercise experience, because it is fun. It's fun, okay? So there you go. I've basically gone through everything I can, which I think is relevant for this on being an introvert. I'm not an expert on any social anxiety or anything like that. So I've basically just given tips where I think it can help. So hopefully somewhere in this video you found a tip, maybe like for the group exercise, you've been like, you know what, now that I know everyone's so kind, I'm not too worried about it, I'm going to go into it and do well. Do you know what I mean? Or maybe you've just thought about, okay, right, in my interview, I now know what body language to do. I know that I need to do eye contact. I know that I need to like have an open, upright, pointed towards them, facing towards them, and that's just going to give me a better like era of confidence. And if you fake it, you're going to end up becoming confident. Like, fake it until you make it is 100% agree with that. Like, you can fake being an extrovert or whatever, and you will end up being an extrovert. Like, that's just how it works. So I hope this video has given you value, and if you're an introvert, shy person, whatever definition we want to use, then I hope this has given you value. If this has given you value, leave a like on this video. I'd really appreciate that. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks very much.